own Abbas Hussain here for Boxing Social, here with the former British cruiserweight champion, none other than Richard Riakporhe. We can tell he's an Adidas ambassador, athlete with the background. Richard, how are you? How are you doing?
Always. Yeah, all good, all good. How you doing?
I'm good, man. Just, sort of trying to live through these times and, get some work done and stuff. So, yeah, it's a bit crazy at the moment, but no complaints. How's things for yourself, first of all? I know that you're supposed to be featuring on this Dillian White card. Eddie Hearn's mentioned it a few times now. That's been changed from March the 6th to March the 27th.
Yeah.
How's that affected you?
It's not affected. You know what, to be honest, I think that's a good thing.
Okay.
It's just giving more time for preparation. So, I'll take the positives. Obviously, in regards to peaking, you want to peak at the right time. So just had to readjust, certain things in camp. But it's all good. It's all good. It's still going to take place, but it's going to be in different territory.
Yeah. In
a different territory in Gibraltar. First time I've been there, so that's going to be quite interesting.
It is interesting. We'll talk about that. I just want to get your opinion on last night's card, and I'm definitely going to sort of divulge into the whole change of location and everything with yourself. Last night, the matchroom card, Josh Kelly versus David Avanesyan. A good card all round, actually. But just talk about that main event, and I know you tweeted about it as well, which is why I thought I'd get your thoughts on it today. Josh Kelly lost to David Avanesyan. What did you make of that fight?
That was an amazing fight, first of all. It's funny because I was reading Gareth Davies' article on the fight, and he described it as a matador with a cape and a ball. Obviously, David Avanesyan being a ball, and Josh Kelly being a matador with a cape, using the cape for his elusivity, his elusive skill, and just trying to draw him on. But David got the best of him, putting the pressure, maintaining that consistent pressure. So, you have to give it to him. And on top of that, it's always nice when you could tell the person or the fighter is a nice person. There's something about him, if you know what I mean. And he conveyed that through his post interview with Sky Sports. And, commiserations to Josh Kelly. But listen, he's going to be back. I like Josh Kelly. I love the scene. That division in the UK is doing pretty well. So, you got Chris Congo, you got Mark Hugh, Charlton. Big shouts out to Charlton as well. He fought like a warrior. It's got major potential, and it's a shame because this kind of just halted everything, halted the progression of that division. You can imagine, if you came through that fight last night, there would have been a major dust up between whoever, any of the names that I mentioned.
I think they were sort of pushing for that Conor Benn fight. If Josh that Conor Benn fight, if he beats Samuel Vargas, I think that was a fight that was going to happen in the summer, but it looks like that one's been pushed back for a little bit now. But just talking about that fight, then we know that Josh came out strong. He boxed well from mid-range and also on his back foot. He moves well. We know he's that sort of slick style type of fighter. But then from about round 3 onwards, it just seemed like the bull in that instance that you're using.
Yeah.
He just sat on Josh's chest, and he was just on him, relentless, fierce, for the next couple of rounds, and then eventually stopping him. First of all, I want to ask you, in that fight, there was a point in that fight where Josh sort of stopped boxing and he started to trade. What do you think caused that to happen in that fight?
I think he had no choice. Sometimes in fights, there gets to a point where you can box, you can move, but doesn't gain the respect of your opponent, and they keep on pressing forward. You have to bear in mind that it takes a lot of energy to move around. There's adrenaline, you have to deal with all of these things, and you may find yourself tiring more than you would usually do if you was in a gym. Just taking into consideration, it's a whole occasion. It's the real thing. It's what you've been preparing for. So he knew that he had to fight. He had to fight him back, to push him back at least, and let him have him do something that he doesn't normally do. Whereas everybody knows he's a pressure fighter. So he did that. But my problem with that was it's the defense. You know, he had a Philly shell defense, but those little minor gaps with his defense when he came up close. And that's when that was the reason why he got exploited with certain shots. And his right hand or his jabs will just come straight over the top. I think he's a southpaw, so you know, you don't want to be getting hit around the tempo area, because that's gonna all around the area. That's all to do with your equilibrium and your consciousness, and it would fade away. You know, the more shots you're taking there, you know, it would take a toll on you in the fight, and you can see that happening after he hit him with them 4 shots. I think it was the uppercut and the hook, then the 1-2. You know, and it took his toll. It was a clean shot straight to the temple side. And, you know, you have to be really, really careful. But it was really effective, the defense from distance, from range. As everybody saw, he was doing what he wanted to do. He was slick. He was enjoying it. He was getting into rhythm. He was dancing. And it looked amazing. It looked beautiful. But I think it started to become too much of a fast pace. And he needed to slow it down somehow, but he maintained it, you know, for as much as he could. But, you know, to be honest, I just thought, you know what, he's going at such a fast pace, he needs to be really careful. Whereas Avanesyan is just walking with his tight guard, high tight guard, and just trying to just walk through him. You know, it's a shame. It's a hard pill to swallow. And, you know, it just makes you think. It makes you put everything in perspective and think, was he rushed too fast? Do you think he should have had a few more fights before that step up? Is there something that someone knew that we didn't know? I don't know. But what I do know is Josh Kelly has the boxing IQ to compete at that level. And Adam Booth identified that, and he's always been preaching about that. And that's not for no reason. You know, he's seen things that nobody else has seen. And you could just tell, you know, he's on an amazing level. But at the same time, there's certain things that he definitely needs to work on, as all of us fighters do. You know, I hate criticizing anybody by anything, because we all got our own flaws that we need to work on. But as a fighter, it's just certain things just need to go and rectify in the gym and be back. And one of the main things he has to rectify is probably going to be the mindset after this loss. And, you know, in boxing, we have to have a strong mindset. You have to have a strong mindset no matter what. Once he does that, he's going to cruise through, because this is all experience. It's a learning curve.
Obviously, just from what you're saying, we're not here to ask questions for you to criticize. Obviously, the only reason why we ask you them is because you guys are boxers and you know what it is to be in the ring, and you've had many sparring sessions, many fights, so you know exactly what what the fighter was going through at that time.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you though, Josh got a big cut at the back of his head, which was bleeding a lot. I think that was in the 4th round, maybe. Can that have an effect on a fighter's mentality when the blood's rushing down his body, down his neck? You know, it looked crazy, the amount of blood that he was losing at that time.
Yes, absolutely. You have to bear in mind, he probably didn't know where the cut derived from. Yeah. Because of the emotion, because, you know, you have to bear in mind that it's actually scientifically proven when there's so much emotional arousal, it's hard to recall certain things. And, you know, being in the ring, it's all emotions. You'll find, you know, there's so many things going through your mind. And when you see blood, you know, pouring down your chest in that way, you're wondering, what the hell, where did that come from? And that's all it takes, just to lose your focus a little bit and focus on what is wrong than what you're supposed to be doing. And that was probably an issue for him, but he had to just snap out of that, which he did really well, by the way. And he started focusing on it and continue focusing on what's in front of him, and controlling this ball. And he did really well, but it was such, I've never seen a cut like that, to be honest. And I don't even remember that that cut, where it kind of derived from. Was it a punch or, you know, a head clash? I absolutely don't know. It was like around here. It's weird.
It was in a weird position. Talking about David Avanesyan, then, somebody who's fought at our level before. He fought Lamont Peterson. He's been there before. Yeah. He's obviously dropped back down. Do you feel like this is now his time to go back up to that level and fight them guys again? Because he seems to have just sort of done what he needs to do at European level now.
Yeah, of course. Then it's just I think it's gonna bottle down to interest in him performing at a decent at that level once again. You know, people want to see the superstars fight. You know, and to be honest, before Josh Kelly and that kind of build up 2 years earlier, I'd never heard of David Avanesyan. Hopefully, this fight gave him that exposure that he needed to push him into that scene. But it's going to be. I think it could be difficult. It could be difficult because he's been there and he hasn't performed. But you know, we'll see. We'll see about that. But I know after the win anyway, he could be pushed into mandatory positions where they have no choice but to open the door for him and let him get a shot. And I really do hope he gets a shot at a world title.
Listen, Josh is 26 years old. I think that was his 13th pro fight. He's got more than enough time to come back and sort of make his name again. You know, it seems like in boxing sometimes when a fighter takes a loss in a big fight like this, you know, people are talking, oh, that was it. He's exposed. He's finished. This, that, all that nonsense that you hear. But he's 26 years old. He can come back, right? As a fighter yourself, you see many people come back from setbacks like this.
Of course. To be honest, you have to bear in mind, in life, it's only the setbacks that make us better, that make us stronger, that make us go back and ponder on what went wrong for long periods of time. And we want to rectify that because nobody wants to lose. Yeah. You know, this is a sport full of ego, pride, and everybody wants to win. I cannot describe the feeling of winning in a boxing match against a competitor that's trained for hours and hours to beat you, and you beat him because you did the same. You can't describe it. That's why you see a lot of these fighters, they retire and come back. It's very addictive. Yeah. It's very addictive. The adrenaline rush, the build up, you know, the glory. So it's one of those things where he's gonna have to just go back to the drawing board and just think over what he's done wrong. And this is what makes fighters better. This is what makes fighters better. When I see people with losses on their records, I don't think, oh, they should be easy. They've been beaten before. They may know the pain of defeat, and that could actually make them better fighters. Whereas if you win all the time, you could be making a mistake but getting away with it all the time, and you think nothing of it. Then you might go against somebody that studies that and exploits it in a fight and ends up knocking you out cold. Like, for instance, look at the guy, Oscar Valdez, knocked out, can't pronounce his name. So he came in, and they said that every time he throws shots coming forward, he keeps his chin in there. They probably practice that in the gym a million times. We all know how Eddie Reynoso, forgive me for pronouncing his name wrong, operates. You know, over and over again, repetition is the key. And he landed a beautiful shot there. So it's not, losses don't define you. It's how you come back, in other words.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about Oscar Valdez. You touched on it there. That knockout was brutal, man. I think, you know, we've heard that Miguel Berchelt is now out of hospital and he's okay and everything seems to be.
That's great. That's great to hear.
It was quite worrying at the time when he knocked him out because he stayed on the floor for a long time and they had to get medical attention for him. But talking about Eddie Reynoso, then just moving on, from Josh Kelly. Eddie Reynoso, man, he's getting his fighters to perform on big stages. That fight last night was a big fight. We've had Ryan Garcia fighting his biggest test against Luke Campbell, and he did something to Luke Campbell that no other fighter has done before. You've got Canelo, who's just put on an absolute masterclass against Callum Smith. You've still got to see a few of his fighters still to come out, including Andy Ruiz. But Eddie Reynoso, man, talk to me about him. He seems like that one trainer that seems to be pushing his fighters to the 100%.
He's a special individual. He's a special coach. And one thing that I've noticed about him, watching his videos and the way his training methods, very experienced in the corner. He knows the right things to say. He knows how to hype up his fighter in the ring. I remember when he was talking to Ryan Garcia, when he was fighting Luke Campbell, was telling him, you're younger, you're fresher, you're stronger, you're faster. Go out there and stay. Gave him just a few things to do, just a few. And you have to study that, when coaches in a corner give instructions to their fighters when they come back to their corner, like, it can't be too much information, because once you give too much information, it's like the fighter ends up focusing on one thing, and then it just becomes like an overload, then goes back to reverting to what he was doing wrong. Whereas sometimes you just give a few things, just breathe. Okay, what you need to do, you're making this mistake, so fix up your shape, and when he falls short, sting him, keep it nice and simple. Maintain your range. Just simple stuff. And that's how Eddie operates. So it's amazing. And he's all about repetition. You'll see him doing the same combination with Canelo and Ryan Garcia over and over again. And that's because you have to bear in mind, it's muscle memory.
Yeah.
The reason why we box in a certain way is because we do it all the time. So when it comes to the real event, we don't have to think. It's not cognitive. It's a feeling. It's just feeling. Yep. There we go. If we end up thinking, there's going to be a split. There's going to be like a second delay. You see opportunity, it's gone. But if you repeat it, it's just a feeling. You'll know and feel it's right. Then you throw the shot. So he's amazing.
Cool. Let's talk about yourself, man. You were supposed to be featuring on March the 6th card, Dillian Whyte Povetkin.
Yeah.
We know yesterday it got announced that that's been moved to March 27th in Gibraltar. You've said that, it's not affected you. If anything, it's even better for yourself to prepare even more. But just talk to me about the change in location, moving to Gibraltar. Is it something that excites you? Is it something that, it's a bit different for any fighter? Because I don't think there's been a card out there that's been this big, to be honest.
Yeah. It's funny because it just reminded me of the UFC when they put in those fights on the island during the beginning of lockdown. So, it's something new. I don't really tend to think of the location that much, only in regards to temperature, because we you remember when Lennox Lewis fought? Is it Rahman?
Yeah,
Rahman, yeah, and he went. He said he didn't go there early enough to acclimatize to the weather, and that affected his performance. So if that's the only thing I thought about, check the temperatures, and it's pretty decent. Anything in between like 12 to 20 or something like that. So that's fine. Just a bit warmer, but it should be cool. But yeah, apart from that, fine is fine. It doesn't matter, where it is. You just have to carry on. You just have to execute the game plan and what you plan to do. I'm not kind of one of those fighters that need to box in my hometown, or if I'm not in my hometown, I feel like homesick or something like that. I can't perform. I don't care. It's all like an experience, and I'll take in the atmosphere and go. I think there should be fans there, so we'll see.
I was going to ask you about the fans, actually. You've not fought since everything's gone into this COVID lockdown, and these bubbles that have happened. There's no fans at events. But for yourself, do the fans do they spur you on? Do they give you that extra energy when you're in that ring?
Well, yeah, of course. You know what? To be honest, it's more like you have certain people around the ringside, and they'll be shouting out instructions. You can hear it, you can feel, you feed off that energy. But I'm just more focused on the plan, what I need to do. And the only person I really can hear, or I'm attentive to, is my coach. So when he shouts out instructions, I can hear, because we've worked on this for how many weeks. I'm used to his voice, and you don't want to get thrown off by the crowd and someone telling you to throw a certain combination where, you know, when they don't know what type of opponent you're dealing with, they don't know the reactions and stuff that you have to deal with when you're throwing certain shots. And, you know, that's when your focus, you know, will be divided. It's dangerous. So, to be honest, I'm not really one of those fighters that need the crowd. I need to feed off the energy. I'm not saying that I can't and I don't, but I never ever thought, oh my gosh, I need it. I'm more, to be honest, I'm more feed off when the crowd is against me, if anything. If you're gonna say, if I was to say I feed off the crowd, it's when they're against me, because I know if they're not chanting my opponent's name and they're quiet, that's because he's losing. That's it. That's been probably my experience. I remember going, you know, way out the UK and in amateur fights, and people screaming, say, "Yeah, knock him out!" And I look at the crowd like, "Me? Okay, we're gonna see about that." And then you don't hear anything after the bell goes. You can hear a pin drop, and I just know, yep, I'm winning. And if they're shouting, saying, "Yeah, well done," that's when you know, yeah, okay, you need to step the game up. You might be making a few mistakes here and there, if you know what I mean. So,
Rich, I want to ask you about, you know, you've not fought since December 2019. I think Josh sort of fought on this the same card or in December 2019, and then he went up to fight David Avanesyan. Yourself, it's been a tough year, because I know you know there was potential dates that didn't work out for you. But mentally, how has that been for yourself? Because sometimes I'm sure it can be very stressful for you guys, because you guys don't get paid if you don't fight.
Absolutely, it's been stressful at times, but I try my best to focus on the positives. Okay. You know, I'm still here, I'm alive, I'm doing what I love, I'm injury free, and things are getting better. Things are getting better every single day, and that's the kind of mindset I've adopted. You know, and you know, time has flown. Like time flies. You know, I remember when we started lockdown, like it was yesterday, and now we're here. And it's going to be the same for the next probably 12 months. You know, when you're busy and you keep yourself occupied, you don't know it's time flying by. So, you know, we're here now. I've trained throughout. I've maintained, you know, my timing, my reflexes. I'm stronger. So I'm in a great position. It was probably better that it took this long so I could build on my fundamentals and correct certain faults, than me just jumping back in and making similar mistakes as I did before.
I finally want to ask you about the March 27th. There still hasn't been an opponent announced for yourself. What's the latest in regards to that?
So yeah, the team, Matchroom and my team are discussing a few opponents, and we should get some confirmation about certain opponents this week. We've tried to make a few fights, people in the IBF, eliminators, world titles. Trust me, we've been back and forth. You know, everybody's been back and forth. And plus with, you know, good time for the opponents to prepare. Yeah. But maybe they're scared. Who knows?
Listen, how big is 2021 going to be for yourself? We know 2020 took right off for you, but 2021, in regards to fighting, how big is it going to be for you?
It's going to be massive. It's going to be massive because I know what I've been doing. You know, when everybody, you know, I don't know what everybody else is doing, but I just know what I'm doing. And in this game, it's just as simple as this. You get out what you put in. It's just that simple. I've been putting in work. So I just know it's just like maths. You know, I'm going to yield, you know, the rewards for that.
When you see a fellow Londoner in Lawrence Okolie who's going to be fighting for a world title against Slovakia at some point, I don't think the date's actually been fully announced. How much does that spur you on? How much is that motivating for yourself, that knowing that, you know, you both come from a roughly same background? He wasn't even involved in boxing until not long ago, really. And now he's fighting for a world title. How much does that spur you on and motivate you to get to that stage?
Oh, it spurs me on a lot. You know, there's one thing about me. I give respect and credit what is due. And a lot of people giving him stick for performing in certain ways. But the fact is, he's done it. You know what I mean? He's done it. He's got the titles. He's gone through the levels. the conventional route, and he's got the shot at the world title, and I believe he's gonna win. You know, you can only respect that. You know, you see a lot of fighters touted to be, you know, stars of the future, and they get to certain levels and they don't perform. You know, which is fine, it happens, but you know, people like him, he's actually done it. He's got the result. You know, sometimes it just matters about the result. You know, a lot of the time, to be honest, because to be honest, people remember the winners. That's it. They unless, you know, it was some crazy valiant attempt and it just didn't work. It's happened a few times. I remember even Chris Eubank Sr., he became popular after some defeats. You know, and certain other people. It's almost like the British fighting fans, they love when you show heart. Same as Josh Warrington, you know, the other week, you know, he got some heavy shots, but he's still stuck in there. Didn't give up. He was still throwing. He was still fighting, and it's just an analogy of life.
Yeah.
You know, couldn't get my words out there, but you know, sometimes we might go through some turmoil. It might be difficult, but it's all about how we fight back. You know, don't give up. We can't give up. But are you gonna fight back? Are you just gonna let life run you over? You know, it's a choice, isn't it? It's a decision. And that's what people love about us fighters, when things are not going our way, but we're fighting back. And that's how people identify themselves with us and follow us, because they respect it, you know, and you have to respect it. You know, not a lot of people have the courage to do that. Not a lot of people have the courage to jump in the ring and have a fight with somebody. You know, a lot of people think that's insane, but you know, people do it. You know.
You know, I asked you about Lawrence Okolie in regards to motivation. How much do you keep an eye on him as a competitor as well? Because I've been with you, but we just stood about, and I think Sky Sports once reeled you in onto some sort of podcast that they were doing. They had you guys standing next to each other, and like,
I remember.
Yeah, it was in that park. I can remember that quite well.
Yeah.
How much in the back of your head, are you looking at him as a competitor, as something that's brewing for the future? You just carry on your path, he carries on his path. At some point, then paths collide. But is that going on in your head at the moment as well?
You know what? I focus on what's in front of me right now.
Okay.
Boxing takes so many twists and turns. You just never know. There's been times where we're supposed to fight each other, numerous occasions. One thing happened and another, and you know, it left us still building and going our separate ways. But you know, in the future, you know, you just never know. You just never know. You know, I have plans to go up to heavyweight. You know, we're at cruiserweight now. We don't know what he's gonna do if he wins that title. Also, you just never know. You just never know. But everybody in my division is a competitor. I have no friends in my division. You know, I just see them as all as rivals, and that's the mindset to have. That's the mindset to have. So, you know, whoever, whenever, you know, wherever, you know, if the bag's right, let's get it.
This is the final one, just away from yourself now. The return of Adrian Broner happened on the weekend. He returned after a good stint out. What do you make of AB, man? He's been around the sport for a long time, being a multi-division champion. I think it's 4-division champion now. From what I was reading, I watched a bit of his fight. You know, he was lucky to get the decision that he got. But what do you make of AB? He's been a funny character to have in boxing. He makes people laugh. You either like him or you don't. He's that Marmite. But yeah, tell me your thoughts on him, man.
To be honest, if I was to be honest, sometimes I see him as a underachiever. And the reason why, you know, some people might say that's harsh, is because I've seen this guy fight. I've seen this guy box. He's so talented. It's easy. It's like he doesn't even try. It just comes natural. But because of his lack of focus, he's getting into trouble, focusing on things that are superficial outside of boxing. It's affected his career. You can't expect to do great in one field when your focus is divided. It's impossible. Because if we could do that, I'll be doing a whole lot of other things right now. Trust me. But he done that, and it's affected his boxing. And when I see him with what he's achieved already, he could have achieved way more. That's the truth. That's how good he is. So, but the good thing is, I'm happy that he's back on the scene. He's back in shape, and he's boxing again. For him to get back in that type of shape and to work at that rate, so that means there must be, you know, something must have clicked in his mind. He must have had those lectures from whoever he looks up to. I told him, listen, you need to start taking this seriously. He's still young, he can still perform, and there's still opportunities for him. So let's see how he gets back. I haven't seen the fight yet, but I've heard this. It was a controversial decision, but you know, at least he's back and doing what he does best. I think he's gifted.
Rich, it's always good talking to you, man. I know Sundays are probably the worst days to talk to people because you probably want to chill out. You've had a long week of training.
I just want to chill out and have my Sunday roast. You know, just want to enjoy my life.
It looks like you're like you've set up your own shoe shop there because you've got all the Adidas trainers behind you set up, man. They're looking after you nicely, man. You're an Adidas athlete.
Yeah, big shouts out to Adidas. You know, they've come on board on the journey, and we're building. We're going to have some great opportunities for people, and it's all about giving back to the community in different ways. So you know, there's few projects that have been delayed. You know, we plan to do a lot of things, you know, prior to COVID, but hopefully, you know, things open up a bit more very, very soon, and then we're going to start pumping and putting some good out there, you know, because people need it, especially come from underprivileged backgrounds, you know, like I did myself. It just shows that anything is possible, you know, when you put your mind to it. That's the truth.
100%, man. Rich, thank you very much for talking to myself. Social. It's been a pleasure as always. And like you said, hopefully we can return to some sort of normality at some point very, very soon. But in the meantime, good luck for your training camp for the next couple of weeks in fight on March 27th. So thank you very much, Rich. It's always good chatting to you, man.
Thank you.
Take care, my brother. Take care.
Yeah.